So an officer pulls someone over for a broken taillight. The interaction seems calm until they're asked to step out of the vehicle. A quick pat down, a reach into a pocket, and suddenly the situation shifts from a warning to handcuffs. But did you see what happened there? That went from a perfectly lawful and legal interaction to an illegal search, just like that. You see, in New Jersey, police can't search a person or a vehicle without lawful justification. And that's because the Fourth Amendment and the New Jersey Constitution both protect against unreasonable searches and seizures. But those protections get blurred and your rights get eroded when there's a claim of officer safety. What's meant to be a brief frisk for weapons and officer safety turns into a fishing expedition. The officer starts patting you down, reaching into your pockets, pulls out guns, drugs, money, whatever's in your pockets. And now you're charged. Guns, cash, or small items in your pocket now become contraband. But in New Jersey, once a search goes beyond what's necessary to ensure officer safety, it becomes unconstitutional. And the reason that's critical is because if it's an unconstitutional search, all that evidence gets suppressed, removed, can't be used against you. And when there's no evidence, there's no conviction. Over the next few minutes, this video is going to break down the difference between a lawful search and an unlawful seizure, and why the limits on a pat-down matter, and how suppression motions in New Jersey can dismantle an entire case built on an overreach. Hi, I'm Daniel Rosenberg. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and I've handled countless motions, both from the state's perspective and as a defense attorney, dealing with unlawful searches and seizures. So let's first talk about being frisked or patted down. This is when a law enforcement officer will pat you down and see if there's anything in your pockets. But the details of why they're doing it and what they're doing once they pat you down are significant. So this is what's called a Terry stop. A law enforcement officer, if they feel that you are armed, can pat you down for officer safety to determine whether or not you have any weapons. But it is not permissible to dig through pockets, bags, or vehicles, because the pat down is for officer safety. It is not for evidence gathering. And when this happens in New Jersey, you actually have more protections than you do on the federal level. And what that means is when you are being patted down for officer safety, if you have a weapon in your pocket and it is immediately identifiable, the officer can feel it, determine that it's a weapon, and then reach into your pocket to remove it. But if it is not immediately identifiable as a weapon, they cannot reach into your pocket. So why is that critically important to know? Because if an officer's reaching into your pocket, they don't find a gun or a knife, but if they find a pill or some drugs or some other contraband that's not a weapon, and then they reach into your pocket, that's an illegal search. Remember, the Terry stop has to do with officer safety, not whether or not you have anything illegal in your pocket. So how does this play out in real cases? Well, a driver stopped for speeding. The officer asks them out of the vehicle, perceives them to be acting nervous, and begins a pat down. A wallet bulge is mistaken for drugs, the pockets are emptied, and charges follow. That's an illegal search. It was a pat down for officer safety, a wallet or bulge, even if they thought it was drugs. That's not a weapon. It wasn't mistaken for a weapon. There's no reasonable belief that it's a weapon. You can't reach in and take it out. That's an issue that needs to be identified, and a motion to the court needs to be filed. All right, so how are these cases handled by experienced criminal defense attorneys? Well, the first thing we do is we don't believe what's in the reports. Whatever is said in the reports is the officer's narrative, and sometimes it's accurate, oftentimes it's not. What we do is we review every piece of evidence, including not only the police reports, but the body-worn camera footage. If there's mobile video recording footage, we review that. If there's video surveillance in the area, we review that. The details matter, and every case is fact sensitive. What was the reason you were asked out of the car? What was the reason you were being patted down? What was the reason the officer believed that they had a justification to pat the person down? What is it the officer believed they were feeling inside the pocket that they think gave them reason to reach in? So not only are we reviewing every piece of evidence and making sure that we know the facts cold, but we're constantly reviewing the ever-changing law to make sure that we are on top of things. And I got news for you. We know the changes in the laws before law enforcement, and we're oftentimes successful in these applications, not because the law enforcement officer is doing something nefarious or underhanded. They just don't know what the changes in the laws are. So they're just doing what they think they're allowed to do, and then we educate them and the state on the limitations of what they are permitted to do. When the moment of overreach is identified, everything found afterward is excluded. Drugs, weapons, statements, all of it. This is what's called fruit of the poisonous tree, because they can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. All they can do is say, well, it was illegally seized, so we can't use that against you. So it is suppressed. It's not used against you. So when you're charged with possessing drugs and they can't offer drugs as evidence against you, they have no case. There are so many people, including law enforcement, that believe wholeheartedly that you're allowed to get patted down and they're allowed to reach into your pockets if they find things. And that's because there's just a lack of education, not only with law enforcement, but also with citizens. It's critical that you know your rights and you know the law, because we have a tremendous amount of protections, but you have to exercise those rights and you have to level those arguments before the system comes crashing down on you. So if you or someone you know are facing criminal charges or offenses, and there is a search related to those charges, contact our office. We'll take the time we need to evaluate your situation, give you blunt and candid advice, and put you in the best position for the best possible result. We have your back. That's what we do.